projeto Pensar e Fazer Arte do GEP, Grupo de Estudo e Pesquisa em Interdisciplinaridade, FAFICLA, Faculdade de Filosofia, Comunicação, Letras e Artes, tem a grande satisfação de receber em nossos estúdios, hoje, na TV PUC, Sharon Stillerman. Sharon Stillerman, born in the United States of America, is an educator and language teacher. She has studied Raja Yoga meditation with the Brahma Kumaris for 31 years and opened a center in Boston in 1984. She currently coordinates Brahma Kumaris activities in Tel Aviv, Israel, where she's involved in bringing the message of spirituality and peace to people in need of hope and encouragement. Sharon Stillerman is here with us, and it's a pleasure, it's an honor for us to receive you here to videotape this program for our project.
Thank you so much, Claudio. I can tell you honestly, it is such an honor and a privilege for me to meet you and be here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to ask you my first question. In today's fast-moving, pleasure-seeking, quick-fix entertainment world with lots of fleeting experiences, a world defined by outer appearances, how do you help people see that there is an almost forgotten side, a much richer and important side, the side of sensitivity and spirituality?
It's a very important question, very relevant question, because indeed we are walking around with so many resources which could help us in these times. But for the most part, these resources have been forgotten to us. And so the search to find some kind of support or solution externally is exasperated, and unfortunately, because the true answers are not anything physical, not anything external, we just continue to feel less and less that things are resolving themselves, and more of an inner emptiness. The way we work with this is we teach 7 concepts. 3 of them are to enable us to turn ourselves within and actually come into an experience of the incredible wealth, spiritual wealth that exists inside each and every one of us, just beyond the mind.
Total wealth that exists inside us.
Yes. For example, the first concept is, who am I? And there's an introduction to our spiritual identity. The body is one thing. It's made of the physical energies. But the spirit, the being inside the human body, is a completely different energy, a divine energy. And originally, it's filled with only the qualities we all seek, such as love or peace. So, who am I? And then, who is mine forever? Who do I belong to? And an experience or an introduction to God as the supreme energy, the supreme spirit, and how we're connected like a river to an ocean. And everything that that one would have, I have too, if I just agree to open to it, stop being a pond, but stretch myself into the river that I originally am and allow that stream to flow. And third concept is, it matters what I do. Laws in the universe, spiritual laws in the universe teach us, as we sow, so we shall reap. And so as much as I can start bringing these new energies of my divinity into the way I think and into the way I speak and act, so that's going to come back to me, improving not only my circumstances and situation, but eventually those who are around me and the community I'm part of, the city, the state, the nation, and when enough of us are working with this, the whole world.
My second question is, what do you mean when you say that everything we are looking for is already in our background?
In our backyard,
in our background, not in our background, in our repertoire, but already in our backyard.
Actually, it's a line from a Janis Joplin song, which I always liked, in which she was saying, you go out, you search the whole world, but actually what you're looking for is in your own backyard.
Yeah.
And it's exactly this. What is it that the soul longs for? Of course, the body needs safety, security, food, shelter, clothing, but the soul needs love, needs happiness, needs peace. And so spiritual education teaches us that these things like love and peace, they are energies. And
they are
energies.
energies.
They are not going to be found in anything physical, because everything physical is made up of a physical energy, and these things are spiritual energies, and they are to be found by going within. So I'm spending my life waiting for this happiness to come by following all the prescribed formulas, acquiring education, acquiring degrees, acquiring possessions, the car, the new house, getting married, having children, and I keep waiting for that happiness to come. But eventually, if we're honest, we'll see that it's not going to come whilst we face outward. Indeed, we want these things for ourselves because this is exactly what we're made of. And the journey has to turn within in order to experience it on an energetic level.
Why do we keep denying? And how we can free our true self? How can we free it?
When you say denying, you mean we're in denial about our spiritual power?
Yes. We deny it because we seem to forget about our spiritual life nowadays. We don't realize the importance of it, the importance of this side. That's why I asked you this question. I'd like to know your opinion about it.
We have weakened our innate ability to live with one foot in our spiritual dimension and the other foot in the physical dimension, because it isn't one over the other, it's the balance of both and how they complement each other. Because we've ended up relying so heavily on the physical dimension, we've weakened the spiritual muscles needed to go and connect with the spiritual dimension. And when we're weak, we will just reach for whatever works as a replacement for the real thing, even if it's just a temporary feeling of satisfaction. So for example, if after a hard day at work and I'm all stressed out, I know that a glass of wine can relax me. Nothing wrong with a glass of wine. I can take a glass of wine to be relaxed. But if I use that glass of wine to replace a real sense of restoring peace inside me, then my ability to restore and connect with my inner peace gets very weak, and I start relying more and more on that glass of wine. And that's how we end up not just enjoying a glass of wine from time to time, but depending on the wine, or the sugar, or the comfort eating, or the shopaholic, workaholic, etc. This is how we end up with obsessive, compulsive behaviors and addictions. So again, either we can talk about learning how to turn within and get to that part of ourselves where these spiritual energies of happiness and peace flow, and we can splash in those waters, so to speak, and refresh ourselves. Or we can call it freeing the true self. It is an interesting expression to say that it's about freeing the true self, because indeed, in our weakness, we have created habits which are suppressing and trapping that good energy too far below. And so, and yet, the solution is the same. I have to decide, I have to come to a decision about how unsatisfactory are the means that I'm using for happiness or peace. Sometimes it's just the level of pain, emotional pain, reaches such a point that we can't bear it anymore. And so we look up a school of meditation or something like that. But one thing or another will eventually put us in front, if we're lucky, put us in front of the option of learning about this inner dimension, the spiritual dimension, and how we can reach it just by controlling another important energy, which is the energy of thought.
Yes, because if we analyze nowadays the behavior of our students in the academy, we notice that they are very much interested in getting things, buying things, consumerism. Very, very good consumers, and they don't pay any kind of attention to the other kind of beauty we need.
Yeah,
You see?
exactly. It becomes like an addiction.
It's an addiction.
Because from that, we do get a certain amount of happiness, but it lasts less and less, longer time, and it's less and less deep a sense of happiness. And so ultimately, we're just left with bad habits and emptiness inside.
Yes, emptiness inside. That is the thing. And this emptiness can't be, let's say, fulfilled because of that.
That's right.
Never, ever. They are always looking for something material, material in order to satisfy either their curiosity or satisfy that moment,
There is nothing material about the soul. It's pure, divine, spiritual energy. Therefore, there is nothing physical that can bring satisfaction to the soul, bring it its happiness or peace.
In what ways is it possible to get rid of our worries?
In my own experience, I never really worked on reducing my worries, my fears, but from time to time I check in with myself and I see that they are diminishing. Why? The only conclusion I can make is that my spiritual studies have introduced me to a much larger picture of what's going on. It's introduced me to a different set of players than my own physical perceptions can relate to me. God has become much more a part of the drama of my life, and I feel the drama of the whole of humanity. So between someone like God and understanding the part that he's playing right now, and working with a much larger picture, which includes why things happen as they do, and a faith that whatever's happening is actually for the good, even though sometimes the goodness is a lesson which is very hard to learn. Slowly I see my worries are calming, but it requires a little bit of appreciation for a larger picture, a little bit of experimenting, so that we can trust the other unseen players in the picture, and an overall aim for where all of this is going. I think a lot of worry comes because things can seem so meaningless. But when, from a larger picture, we can understand that no, humanity is on a journey and there is a destiny, and we're heading straight towards that, and nothing's going to stop that. This is a very powerful perspective, which changes worry into proactive, constructive attitudes, speech, and behavior, and that's useful. Worry is not useful. Nothing is changed by it. In fact, the energy for change is diminished through it.
Yes, it's the other side which is really important, the side of God.
Yes, especially when we understand that it's his job to change the world. I'm helping him in this. It's not like it's my job and he's helping me.
Now I have here a very, very long question. And I would like to start reading it because I wrote it at home from the bottom of my heart.
Oh.
Yes. Some intellectuals say that the leaders that rule the most important countries are murderers. Yeah, they are probably right. I.e., they do not have inside them the necessary virtues good leaders should have. Good leaders like Gandhi, Maria Theresa of Calcutta, and many others. Respect, humbleness, coherence, partnership, detachment. How can one reach these virtues in a fragmented world like ours, in an interconnected world that has become a global village, but at the same time still divided in a very fragmented way? Countries, frontiers, prejudice, wars, terrorist attacks, criminality.
A change of consciousness is required. I think that as individuals, our levels of emotional pain bring us to that point where we feel a change of consciousness is needed, or because of circumstances and situations, our consciousness is transformed. I really do believe that within the larger picture of it all, we're going to see that there are certain people who are going to have that part to play. They are change agents. We see this part already, but it's at a physical level. They're the shakers and the movers, and they're doing wonderful, wonderful work. But their organizations and the very good work they're doing are at risk, and we've seen it over time, of losing a lot of the idealism which started them, because the human beings operating it and participating in it just run out of energy. There are challenges to anything new, especially if it's good and new, and it's very hard to face those challenges. A lot of times there isn't even the support that's needed for that. And so, again and again, I think it comes down to the fortune of, for one reason or another, understanding that our consciousness needs some very important attention, very deliberate attention. It needs to be broadened. It needs to be made more unlimited, global, so to speak. And I don't know anything that does that work better than a research which brings us beyond the mind, deep within, and what we could call, for lack of a better word, silence. And silence as a power. Silence is something many of us would know all about. It's that space where I'm just sitting and I can decide that I'm a good person, even if I've failed or there's problems. I can affirm my goodness or my intentions to be good, and I can strengthen that. But one of the most beautiful definitions I've ever heard of silence is that it is that space where you can take a thought of your choice, plant it like a seed, and cultivate it so that it grows and blossoms into a beautiful fruit. And a beautiful fruit means a new way of seeing something, a new attitude or a new feeling. This is very precious, especially if in that silence, by working with thought in this way, you end up in an experience of joy or gratitude, because people will challenge the newness in what we're doing and the newness in the things we're instigating to try to make the world a better place. But if what I'm doing on the physical level is fueled by this inner kind of experience, then nothing can stop me, and I'm okay. I can face all the challenges. So it's just, it comes back again and again to the need to cultivate, or I should say access, this rich inner world which already exists, and then to practice. Practice it.
That's the most difficult thing, to put it into practice.
That's right, because it's only then that the bridge between the two worlds becomes very strong and secure. in the beginning, it might take me 1,000 steps to reach that part of myself. But ultimately, it's one jump and I'm there. Ultimately, 1 foot there, 1 foot here, and I'm unstoppable.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
The director of our institution, of course, it's actually it's an organization run by 3 women. They're all in their 80s and 90s. And of the 3, the director is 98 years old.
98?
98. And if you want to experience unstoppable, meet this woman. She's absolutely incredible.
I wish I could.
You must. Come to India.
I will. I will. That must be something out of the blue.
Well, it really pulls you up. It really makes you alert. Yes, this is what we're capable of when we mobilize our inner spiritual resources. And she's not alone. There are so many like her.
They are examples to follow, right?
There are many examples. All the religions, all the faith traditions, every culture, they will produce examples for us. And these examples are of those who are drawing from new energy.
Another question. I have another question here to ask you that involves the 3 research groups we have here at PUC. In some of our research groups, Interesp, run by Rui Espírito Santo, NEF, run by Arnoldo de Hoyos, we met yesterday, and JEP, run by Ivani Fazenda, here at the Catholic University of São Paulo, and my project, Pensar e Fazer Arte. A lot has been discussed about getting to know yourself. And one of the possibilities the group have come across is precisely finding ways to discover the true self. What's your opinion about sharing our personal life to get to that goal?
I think that we fail miserably when we rely just on the left brain alone. The research that our intelligence can reason for us and logic for us and rationalize for us. Because life is not an equation. It's an art piece. And sharing personal experiences, especially when we've been victorious over any particular challenge, and we're not just sharing the pain or the difficulty, but we're sharing how we overcame it. Exactly. This is immensely successful, I feel. Because it's unbelievable how fragmented we have become as a humanity, as a collectivity. And this fragmentation has one particular expression, which took me a long time to understand, and that is that I think that whatever I'm going through is just me. I'm the only one going through this.
Very nice.
You know, this kind of emptiness, even though I have everything. Or this kind of feeling that I don't know what love is, even though I have a loving partner or children or whatever. Some very scary emotions could be there, and we really feel that it's not worth to talk about because it must be some sickness of mine or some strangeness in my own persona. But when we include personal experience and our personal journeys in what our intellects can conclude and understand and realize through intellectual study, it becomes so real, it becomes so pertinent, and it brings us together. It brings us together. And at this point, I don't really know the value of any educational system if it isn't aimed to bring us together. And there should be an experience that we're closer, having studied this and having studied it together.
Now, I have the last question. I don't know whether we have enough time, but I'll try to ask you this. It's a very personal question, once again. I could have used many wonderful narratives produced by my friends here at the groups, at the research groups, in the research groups we belong to. But as I was honored to have you here for this interview, I will tell you how I feel towards my beliefs in terms of spirituality, and I would like you to tell me whether I'm on the right track or on the wrong one. I am a Catholic. I believe in God, Jesus and the saints, and the angels. I also take part in Umbanda and have a wonderful spiritual guide who advises me in times of troubles. And I sometimes, due to lack of time, go to the National Center of India, where I attend lectures on spirituality. I love going to a synagogue and listen to messages delivered by rabbis. Twice a week I go to Zen Buddhism sessions where we sit for an hour thinking about ourselves. That is a real difficult task, very difficult task. All this has led me to think differently. And every time I leave one of these places, as I left your lecture yesterday, I felt renewed, or stronger and happier. Your advice, please.
Well, first of all, you're living the path of spirituality, because spirituality is a perspective which sees the goodness and what's of benefit on so many different paths. Religion, when we're fundamentalist, especially in our religion, would tend to divide us and separate us, but spirituality appreciates each religion like so many different branches on the one tree, and the beauty is in all of them together, yes, blossoming. Of course, I feel a very impressive lifestyle, and one which only a very humble person, someone operating genuinely from the heart, would undertake. So to hear this is very touching for me and confirms for me that everywhere on the whole planet are very good people working genuinely from the heart. According to my experience, I could add one thing, and that is that I have come to feel that beyond a certain point, being able to really move forward in my endeavors and the destiny I want to reach is going to be more and more an aspect of a very specific kind of experience, a spiritual experience, my own inner peace and the ocean of peace that is God, the ocean of all qualities that is God. In my own journey, I could see that I defined progress as how much I can now stay in happiness, stay in my inner strength, versus how many opportunities do I avail myself of to trigger that for me. The experience opens us to a world, gives us access to a world where all these good qualities increase in us. And so if anything in my experience is useful to you, I offer that.
Thank you very much. It has been a wonderful interview, and I'd like to thank you very, very much for having accepted our invitation. And eu gostaria de agradecer ao telespectador pela audiência. Muito obrigado.